To convince a stakeholder that I can help, I need to acknowledge that their mot is their decision maker. I need to speak its language, but remember, mot is a non-conscious entity. It doesn't understand reason. So I have two options to convince mot of anything without, force or coercion, which I tend to discourage on an IT project. Persuasion and influence. I persuade mot by presenting my desired outcome. What am I trying to achieve, and why should they help me? If I am persuasive enough and can convince them that this is a good outcome for them, they'll help me. But that creates a temporary result at best. I might have them persuaded today, but when I come back tomorrow, they may no longer be as convinced. If what I deliver disappoints them, I don't get a second chance. Promising something and not delivering it is a sure way to ruin a perfectly good friendship. Trust me, been there, done that. Lost one of my best friends because I missed an exit off of the interstate on our way to a golf outing. If persuasion fails, the other option is influence. The difference between persuasion and influence is subtle. To influence someone, I don't present my outcome. I present a vision of what everyone would have with the optimal outcome. I'm actually inspiring the other people to work with me to achieve that outcome because they believe in it. It's good for them as well, so getting what I want becomes a collaborative effort. Influencers get higher buy-in, but it also takes a lot longer and costs more effort. An influencer has to build trust. You need to know your target audience, and you need to get them to accept who you are. You need to be authentic, and you need to have their best interests at heart. If they ever lose their trust in you, you lose them. Now, unlike cold data, persuasion and influence are subtle and require finesse that only comes from my mot. Finesse is a skill like every other skill. The more you use it, the better you get. You can practice it and improve it until it's ingrained. Then mot can do it faster, better, and easier. That's how you get in the zone. Remember that mot manages my emotions and does not like to be told what to do. It will counter whatever I say to establish its own freedom of action. It hates change, so it's going to defend the status quo. Now, often, what I am saying goes in one ear and out the other. It challenges logic and evidence. When it listens, it's critical and refuses to believe what I'm saying. So how do you deal with resistance like that? Framing is a secret weapon. How you phrase a question is critical, especially when you're offering choices. For example, assume my 9-year-old asks me, "Can I watch TV while I do my homework?" Well, like a typical parent, my non-conscious mind would instantly respond, "No, because you won't be able to focus on your homework." But what if my child asked me, "Can I do my homework while I watch TV?" Now, parent or not, my non-conscious mind hears the start of the sentence, and my initial reaction is, "Of course you can do your homework." It takes a conscious effort to actually understand what the child is really requesting. When you ask for something from a stakeholder, mention something the other person wants first and what you want after that. That is framing. Another way to combat resistance is timing. If you buy a car from a dealer, why do they try to convince you the value of the car before they start price negotiations? Timing. Why is the asking price always higher than you end up paying? Timing. If mot wants the car, the sale's almost over. And natural salespeople need an innate grasp of timing. So do natural comedians, by the way, which I'm not. I'm not suggesting that you manipulate your stakeholders into agreeing to something that is wrong for them. No. You can only gain and keep their trust if you have their best interest at heart. However, timing matters. So, mot hates change because change represents risks. That's why it defends the status quo. One of its defense mechanisms is to not listen to your message. If I stick my head in the sand, nothing can change, and I'll be safe. To get mot to pay attention and do something different, I need to offer it a reward. But what? Well, it turns out mot lives for rewards. But some rewards are worth more than others. from low to high. Physical rewards are first, like money. Those are fleeting. Sensory rewards, being satisfied with the actions, they are at least temporarily memorable. Emotional rewards, feeling great about myself, that lasts longer, and that's what Mott really wants. But expressive rewards are when achievements are recognized by others. I'm getting a trophy. If you want to convince someone to change their behavior, offer them the highest level of rewards that you can reasonably deliver. While I'm on the topic of rewards, here's a reward for all of you. I kind of offered a teaser earlier stating that it's a bad idea to ask a stakeholder why. I'll now remove the suspense. So what's wrong with asking why? Asking a stakeholder why creates negative tension. That statement actually contradicts a well-known technique taught in many IT business analysis seminars called the 5 whys. This technique lets you drill down into a problem to identify the root cause. You just ask someone what his or her problem is, then ask why repeatedly until they reveal the real problem that you can solve. Of course, you risk irritating them so much that they throw you out of their office, in which case you solved an entirely different problem. You didn't really need that job anyway. And now you're free to collect unemployment or look for another job. I have used the 5 whys myself. And no, that's not the reason I became self-employed. However, I did sense that a lot of people felt uncomfortable trying to come up with an acceptable answer. Sometimes I got the goofiest reasons that made no sense whatsoever. Neuroscience discovered that people actually cannot tell me why because they do not know it themselves. Remember, Mott is the decision maker. But speaking is a conscious act. Speaking is Tom's job. Mott cannot communicate everything it knows to Tom due to the speed differential. Tom's up there plodding along at its 40 thoughts per second while Mott's down there zooming along at light speed. The real problem is that Mott decided to want something, so when I ask Tom why, Tom perceives that as a challenge. My conscious mind has to invent an answer. It feels honor-bound to defend the decision that Mott made so it doesn't look stupid. So asking why instantly puts the other person on the defensive. Now they have to justify why they want what they want. You're just trying to understand the rationale behind a requirement, a user story, a feature, or whatever, to justify the investment necessary to deliver the solution. But you actually don't need to know the why. What you need to know is the business value that their request delivers. Instead of making them defensive by asking, why do you want the ability to override the premium? Ask, what is the business value of overriding the premium? Let them explain how it would improve the business process or their workflow. Remember that business value can be tangible, like money. It can be process improvement, like speed. It can be intangible, like customer satisfaction or relationships. You can also discover requirements and their business value by observation, also known as site visits. One of the major advantages of site visits is that you get a visual image of workflows and workflaws. You can talk to multiple stakeholders that do similar jobs and allow the business value to reveal itself. You can sit down and idea storm a list of the most likely business values and offer the stakeholders choices. You can leverage the wealth of information available on the World Wide Web. That information is always accurate, right? If it's on the internet, it must be true. Okay, you can do due diligence and research the value of requested features and functions to similar organizations. Above all, you can learn the language of the non-conscious. If we learn to talk Mott's language of feelings and emotions, we're going to communicate on a whole different level. If you understand how Mott works, how it reacts, and what makes it decide, then you can ask questions using that language. Then you are communicating with their non-conscious mind. So how is this going to affect your day-to-day life? As the one responsible for getting requirements, user stories, features, etc., you can leverage your new awareness of the differences between Tom and Mott. Use Tom to learn new techniques like how to help your stakeholders visualize their requirements. Then practice that technique until it becomes second nature and let your Mott take over. You can use persuasion and influence to help your project succeed by convincing reluctant stakeholders to accept your invitation to a meeting and actually show up. You can guide cross-functional teams to collaborate towards mutually beneficial solutions and inspire a group to try a new technique like problem analysis, user stories, or models for solving a problem. You can use timing to inspire a group of stakeholders to identify their own solutions instead of trying to solve it for them. Remember the power of silence. You can convince developers to recognize that a software bug is not always a picnic. For those who don't know, the acronym PICNIC stands for Problem in Chair, Not in Computer. That's the developers out. You could also explain to developers that a proposed technical solution does not provide business value. So in the end, does understanding conscious and non-conscious mind address any of the challenges I identified at the beginning of this course? Modern requirements constructs like user stories specify the stakeholder, the business value, and the outcome. Asking how the business community will test a user story helps them reconsider what they want from a different perspective. Whether you follow a traditional waterfall or an agile approach, Three Amigos conversations immediately prior to coding to ensure that all players are on the same page is a great idea. Learning and applying techniques like engaged and informational listening and silence in your stakeholder conversations helps them contemplate the business value of their needs. Asking for business value instead of the challenging why encourages stakeholders to express legitimate needs. Timing and framing can persuade and influence people to give you the time you need from them. If you find the right rewards, you can even entice them to give you more time than they think they have available. The entire purpose of understanding how the conscious and non-conscious mind works is to minimize communication challenges. Offering appropriate rewards by scaling upwards can work wonders. Remember, you get maximum return by scaling up from physical to sensory to emotional and then to expressive rewards. Change is a fact of life. It's also a pain in the anatomy. Without solid IT business analysis, it creates chaos. That's the reason those with business analysis skills earn the big bucks. In today's IT world, requirements are not final until the code is in production. Now, based on the lean concept of last responsible moment, you might say a requirement is an ongoing conversation. I have to confess that I am addicted to change. I have moved 85 times in my life, and right now my wife and I are contemplating moving again. Align the power of your conscious and non-conscious minds. Let Tom show Mott that change is not a threat, but an opportunity for growth. You know, when I compare life in the Stone Age with life now, I embrace and celebrate change. Change makes life exciting and keeps us young. So where do you start? Well, there is a myriad of ways that understanding the conscious and non-conscious mind can help you become a better ITBA or requirements engineer, or actually to deal with any situation that involves human interaction. Let your conscious and non-conscious minds collaborate by allowing Tom to build the appropriate IT business analysis skills, but give Mott permission to leverage its awesome abilities in dealing with people. Now, realistically, I don't expect you to take ideas from this course or any of my courses and instantly integrate them into your lives. That's not how real change happens. There's a little thing called a learning curve that's mathematically expressed as the 70-20-10 rule for skills acquisition. That rule implies 10% of learning a skill is becoming aware of it by reading, by attending courses like this, taking seminars. That new knowledge only becomes valuable when you apply it. Trying it under supervision in exercises during class increases your understanding by about 20%. However, you only become proficient at anything when you use it in real life to do real work and accept the risk that you will get burned if it doesn't work. That is where 70% of learning takes place. Now, this learning curve is actually how you transition from non-conscious incompetence to non-conscious competence in the real world.